Former law clerks for Judge Brett Kavanaugh are lending their support for his confirmation to the Supreme Court. In a letter to the Senate Judiciary Committee, a group of 34 Republicans, Democrats, and independents write that Judge Kavanaugh would ably and conscientiously serve his country as a Supreme Court justice. Joining me now is Jennifer Mascott, Assistant Professor of Law at the Antonin Scalia School of Law, one of his former law clerks. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me on today.
Also in this letter, you have said that he has been a role model to us personally as well as professionally. He's unfailingly warm and gracious to his colleagues. He has a fundamental humility. I think we've established that you think he's a good guy.
I think that's fair to say.
Okay, good. Let's move on then to his confirmation process.
Sure.
It's going to be a very fierce battle. For him, people are saying he's been chosen because they believe that he will go through. However, in 2009, Judge Kavanaugh wrote that indicting a sitting president would ill-serve the public interest, especially in times of financial or national security crisis. So there are those of his critics who say he needs to recuse himself of anything related to the Mueller investigation. Can he maintain his independence?
So I think the top thing to know about Judge Kavanaugh, and he's been on the bench now for 12 years. He's written as many as 300 opinions. And in all those opinions, his record's clear. He's an independent, fair-minded judge. USA Today has called him on paper maybe the most qualified Supreme Court nominee in generations. And so I think if he were confirmed to the Supreme Court, I expect he'd keep an open mind, going case by case on issues like he's done for 12 years. On the specific issue that you raise, it's so interesting that you bring that up because as people have started to talk about issues like presidential investigations or other things like that, others have written that that's actually, his position on that is very misunderstood.
Why is that?
So Ben Wittes of the Lawfare blog, formerly of the Washington Post, said a couple of things. He said, first of all, about some of the questions being raised actually stem from just 4 pages in a law review article that Judge Kavanaugh published in 2009 when it was actually a president of the opposing political party who was in office.
That was President Obama.
President
2009,
Obama.
Right.
And in that article, Judge Kavanaugh is talking about a potential policy proposal that Congress can enact. He's actually not discussing his view of the state of the law. And so it's interesting, some folks, including Professor Noah Feldman at Harvard Law School, has actually warned people who are trying to slow down the confirmation that this is exactly the wrong route to go because it's so much portraying Judge Kavanaugh's view in a wrong light that they're easy concerns to refute.
All right, let's move on to the of the Affordable Care Act in 2011. When he was in his role as judge of the U.S. Court of Appeals in D.C., as he is now, he dissented from the majority opinion that the law's individual mandate, which compelled every American to have health insurance or face a fine, was constitutional. Judge Kavanaugh wrote that the mandate could be considered a tax and conservative. Critics said that laid the groundwork for it to be upheld. How does he overcome that hurdle in his confirmation process?
So again, in that case, I think like in all others, Judge Kavanaugh's taking an independent perspective. He was looking at the relevant text of statutes, and actually his opinion there also has been a little bit misperceived. What his opinion actually said is that he did not think his court at the time had jurisdiction to even reach the constitutionality of the Affordable Care Act. It was his understanding of a statutory threshold statute that that somebody would first have to pay the mandate and suffer injury that way before the court could hear the case. So I think again there you see Judge Kavanaugh going case by case, looking at the issues in a fair way. He's spoken of the role of judge as that of an umpire, and he wants to fairly look at every case and apply the law as he sees it.
Before we go, he's a Catholic. He's at Blessed Sacrament here in Washington, D.C. He coaches CYO basketball for his daughters. In the workplace, how did you see him work with his faith?
Well, he's such an approachable, kind person. And one of the things I really appreciated that he said in his speech when the president nominated him is he talked about service, and he talked about his Catholic upbringing, and motto of his school is men for others. And you can really see that approach in the coaching of his daughter's basketball teams
But what about at work?
And also at work and his mentorship of all of his clerks. So I clerked for him, for
was
example, 12 years ago. And over the years, he's continued to maintain a professional contact. One of the first people that I consult if I have a big professional decision. And like with me and all others, he gets back to us right away and gives his best take and is just a very kind, supportive, encouraging mentor.
Thank you so much for joining us, Jennifer Mascott, who has worked for the man, Judge Kavanaugh, the man of the hour. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.